Hello and welcome back. Eddie Radosevich, George Stoy here for the Soonerscoop.com studios. It is the TCU opponent preview. Oklahoma final regular season game coming up on Friday. That is going to be a Black Friday. Happy Thanksgiving to a lot of you out there watching. Or I guess everybody. Everybody somewhat does that, I think. Big Turkey Day. I know that we've been preparing mentally, physically, maybe even spiritually. What is the, what's real quick, before we really delve into this, what's the go-to tomorrow?
Turkey.
Just any type of turkey?
Have you
tried the fried turkey?
I haven't. My mom cooks the turkey. I don't think she's frying it.
That's right.
I don't know how she.
What kind
I
of
want to try it.
Stuffing are we working with? Any type of stuffing?
Any stuffing. I love stuffing. Stuffing's actually probably my favorite side. I also love green bean casserole. I know
Absolutely.
you, GBC
Absolutely.
committee.
Yeah.
Also, for all the people
tomorrow,
all the people out there that if your family's making you do a turkey trot, consider maybe leaving your family. And if you're willing to do a turkey trot, we're probably not friends.
You've been adamant on this subject.
Yes, I don't.
Week.
Why would you go do that? This is the one day.
Don't look at me like I've ever done.
No, I know. You know, it's the night before Thanksgiving is always a fun night. Go out with your friends. Go see old friends, right?
That's right. It's the biggest party night of the year.
And then
Wednesday
Thursday,
night.
you do nothing. You eat, you watch football, and you celebrate with family. You don't go exercise. That's just not something you should be doing.
Can we throw a little OU basketball in there?
Yeah,
they
of course.
Play at 2 o'clock tomorrow.
Lots of college hoops.
Feast week.
Yeah, OU basketball. What do they play? 2:30.
2 o'clock, I believe.
2 o'clock.
Iowa.
What channel?
That's a great question.
We should probably know that.
We should probably know that. But listen, we'll have it on. Okay?
Also, you have Google.
FS1, I believe, or probably one of the ESPN operations. I know that Bob's probably screaming at us right now. Special offer for you out there on YouTube. YouTube listeners. $1 off 2 months, Soonerscoop.com. Use promo code OU1. That is $1 off for 2 months. Special offer for the YouTube viewer. And we appreciate everybody being back here on the Soonerscoop.com YouTube channel. Real quick, we're going to get into the OU-TCU stuff, senior day, all that kind of stuff on Friday. It is the 60th year anniversary of something right now. Today, November 22nd. You were telling me that you have beliefs in how JFK was assassinated in Dallas. Today is the 60th anniversary of the assassination of John F. Kennedy. You said that you had a personal belief on what actually happened on the grassy knoll. Would you like to share that with everybody else?
I want to know what twist you have to get us back to OU football. You just went from Thanksgiving to Sooner Scoop promo to JFK assassination.
Dead presidents, OU football closing out the regular season coming up on Friday. Bob wrote about it. You wrote about it. I want to get to the Drake Stoops stuff here shortly, but Oklahoma will be honoring a number of seniors. I think it was 13 is the number that we know of. And obviously there's some of those guys that can come back. I think Justin Harrington was somebody that Bob Prusville had listed. We'll see what happens with him if he's going to apply for that extra year medical hardship coming up. But Brent Venables did talk about it on Monday when he met with the media honoring this group of seniors.
In the locker room and their teammates and certainly their opportunities. So I got a great perspective and, again, a tremendous amount of thankfulness for them. And, again, going to be an emotional week for several of them, senior day. For those who've never participated in a senior day, it's a very emotional time, and it really kind of hits them in the face when they see their mom and dad or whoever the village that they have might be out there on the field, and it kind of can hit you in the face pretty quick. But that'll be a challenge that that's part of my responsibility to make sure that help them not to allow their emotions hijack the moment. Because they got to turn around and play a really tough physical game. There's a mental challenge and a physical challenge that the game requires. That several moments later, after having that moment, that they're going to have to be ready to play. But really, really proud and thankful for this group of guys.
Those seniors are Rondell Bothroyd, Isaiah Coe, Justin Harrington, Jordan Kelly, Jonah Laulu, Reggie Pearson, Austin Stogner, Marcus Stripling, McCade Mattower, Caleb Schaefer, Phil Paella, and Walter Rouse, and then Drake Stoops, who you wrote about. You can read the article on Soonerscoop.com. A magnificent look at what's the end of just an incredible run for the Stoops family on Oklahoma sidelines for the last 25 years.
Yeah, Bob Stoops was hired December 1st, 1998. Drake was born, I want to say 100 and something days later,
Right.
that
Infants.
June.
One of the great pictures, him and Isaac on the OU football field, I believe on the day that Bob was hired.
Yeah, and so, I think it's been quite the run. They've obviously grown up around OU and got to speak with not only Bob this week, who was fantastic, probably the best interview I've ever done with Bob. He was very open about it, but also all of Drake's uncles, Mike, Mark, and Ron, who also, have been watching kind of from afar. Obviously, Mike and Mark are now at Kentucky, and so they try to watch him when they can. They were telling me, it's funny this year with the game being on Friday, they play Louisville on Saturday, so they're all getting together, kind of having a family get together to watch it, in their living rooms on Friday, celebrating Thanksgiving as well. So it was an awesome story to write. Drake is a guy that we've talked about it, Eddie. He's the epitome of what OU football is all about, being a walk-on, earning his way, becoming really a pivotal part of this offense and also this program. I wrote in the story too, when we look back on the Brent Venables era in a few years, and if it continues to go the way that we think it will be, Drake will be a pivotal piece of a time being a leader and a player for this program when they absolutely needed it. And I think that he's, kind of that perfect representation of the program and also that Stoops last name. We always hear the Stoops last name, Youngstown, Ohio, Steel Town, growing up hard-nosed. That's Drake Stoops. And I think his journey has been an awesome one to follow.
Here is Drake Stoops talking with reporters on Monday night about the end of a 6-year run in Norman.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely, like I said, soaking it in, trying to be present each day and be intentional about my work and about spending time with my teammates and my coaches and just being around the building and just enjoying it because it doesn't last forever, and for me it went by really fast, so I'm just trying to get the most out of it and be prepared as well for Friday's game against TCU.
Have you thought at all about your name and your legacy that you've left here at Oklahoma?
Not much. I haven't thought about it a whole lot just yet. I've never been one to just, think about myself a whole lot, but definitely want to finish this season the right way and go send Team 129 out on a good note and a positive note, and hopefully win Saturday, get a 10-win season, and I think I'll reflect a little down the road and definitely reminisce, and it'll be a melancholy experience, kind of the ending of a good thing.
This will be, I guess, the last time in the last 25 years that the Stoops name will be in the program with your dad coaching you so long, your uncle as well. I mean, have you thought about that at all, being kind of the last Stoops in the program?
No, I mean, that's pretty cool, though. We've been around for a while, I guess, and I'm glad that I got to live out my dream here and contribute and do my best to uphold the good Stoops family name.
Yeah. 146 career receptions for Drake Stoops, as you put in the story, George. And
11th all time.
It's crazy to think, and we talked about it this week on the Unofficial 40, where he could kind of stand in like the lexicon of Oklahoma wide receivers. Up for the Burlsworth Trophy, one of 3 finalists, I believe. That announcement usually is during the first week or so of December. It's really cool to kind of see where this thing has ended for Drake. And, obviously you talked to Bob, you talked to all of his uncles. There is, I would imagine, amount of pride that you couldn't even really be able to really truly grasp.
Yeah, and that's what they talked about, is being able to watch him kind of grow into the man that he is, and also, achieve his dreams. And of course, they thought he could be this type of player. So to see it come to fruition has been really special for them. And it's funny, Bob was like, I'm not going to be emotional on Friday, but I do think there will come a moment in that game on Friday that the crowd is chanting his name, Stoops, and I wonder if he'll have kind of an emotional moment there. Bob's not ever one to get sentimental, but it'll be something to keep an eye on. And also, crazy stat out there.
I was going to say.
We got to bring it up, but he's caught passes from 8 different OU quarterbacks. Jackson Arnold could be number 9 if he ends up playing on Friday. Those 8 are Austin Kendall, Kyler Murray, Caleb Williams, Spencer Rattler, Tanner Mordecai, Davis Bevel, Dylan Gabriel. Am I missing anybody?
You're only missing one.
Spencer Rattler? Did I say him?
No.
Oh, gosh. I've tweeted it.
He's had a pretty good career in the NFL so far.
Jalen Hurts.
There
you go.
Why
Crazy.
did you forget him? Are you saying that he's an Alabama grad, or
I was trying to go
by
year, and then I just skipped it.
That's right. No, Jalen Hurts, and it is incredible, and we'll see, kind of what that situation is coming up on Friday. with Oklahoma in the final game. We talked about it on the Tuesday show, just as far as Jackson Arnold. Is he going to make his first career start in Norman? And what kind of the status is of Dylan Gabriel going into what is going to be a interesting senior day down in Norman. For our opponent preview interview this week, we stopped down with Stats of War. I know that I'm sure that there's a lot of guys or a lot of people out there that are familiar with Parker Fleming, a Twitter analytical
great follow
guru that I think on Mondays it's like, okay, how bad did you really play? And he usually puts that into a really good perspective with graphs, but he's also a TCU guy. So we stopped down and wanted to catch up with Parker on the Frogs. Here's our discussion. Parker, thanks for joining us this week. It's crazy that Oklahoma and TCU, we entered the final week of the regular season. It seems like it always kind of sneaks up on everybody, but welcome in. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, glad to be here. It does feel a little weird to have this one on Thanksgiving. I'm used to this being like the first cold day in Oklahoma in October. That felt like that was always the TCU Oklahoma game. So a little different on the calendar this year.
No doubt about it. I think that from like the Oklahoma perspective of things, obviously the 9-2 record is much improved from a season ago. And I think the Oklahoma season, it took the turn for the worse after the trip to Fort Worth a year ago. Let's just start here with TCU coming off of a national championship appearance a year ago. It's been up and down. I know that probably not where Sonny Dykes would have liked for a year coming out of a national championship appearance, but just overall, what has been kind of the feeling in Fort Worth with this Frogs team?
Well, Sonny Dykes at Media Days, I mean, you guys heard, he talked about, putting the pieces together and tempered expectations and was a little cagey about even the questions about the national championship because he knew they won a lot of one-score games last year. He knew kind of how the Big 12 works in modern terms, and especially in the, and no offense by this, in the non-Oklahoma dominant Big 12, where it wasn't just Oklahoma the second team. It's, hey, who has the team at the top of their development cycle and who gets the breaks? And TCU definitely did last year. So I think that their hope this season was really to retool and not rebuild, and to bring in some transfers. You look at, JP Richardson, JoJo Earl on the offensive side of things, and try to keep things rolling. And really, I think what the season was about for Sonny Dykes was establishing TCU's floor much more than establishing their ceiling or trying to say, hey, we're going to be Alabama and compete. I think they absolutely got stuck by Colorado and realized that there's been some issues of, hey, we've got coaches here that we maybe feel like aren't working out, even as we know that our win-loss record isn't the ultimate determinant of kind of success this year. Obviously, with the Chandler Morris injury again, your depth gets tested really, really quickly. So their hope was to rebuild and maybe not absolutely bottom out. I think that if you ask them, a 3-5 conference record, 5-5, having to win a game as a double-digit favorite to go to a bowl this year, I think they bottomed out a little bit more than they wanted. They knew they weren't going to go back to the national championship, but I think their hopes were absolutely that they would be still in the upper middle class of the Big 12.
Parker, you mentioned Chandler Morris. Obviously, Oklahoma fans are familiar with Chandler. He goes down with the injury. What have you made of the quarterback situation? You have Hoover come in. He's put up some nice stats, but he's also, I think, turned the ball over quite a bit. What have you made of just the quarterback situation? Has that kind of played into why TCU is sitting where they are right now?
Absolutely. Although, I mean, you cannot say enough about Josh Hoover coming in, third string guy, wasn't going to expect to see the field, and stepping in. And by all accounts, the team likes him. The locker room loves him. I think you guys have heard the story where he learned every walk-on's name and some stuff like that, where he's just been a locker room guy. So you love to see a guy like that succeed. It's certainly limited what I think they can do on offense. He's stepped up and made some great plays. And to his credit, I mean, looked great against BYU, and good players make bad teams look bad. So there's been moments where he's looked good, but obviously very limited. A lot of the balls that he's throwing are, hey, I hope my receiver can catch this. And that's definitely changed it. I wouldn't put that as the monocausal reason behind TCU's success. In fact, I think there's a couple other, but Hoover coming in really just kind of exposed the lack of depth in the quarterback room. TCU missed on a couple transfers, got outbid on a couple guys. I won't necessarily mention names, but you can put the dots together. One or two players went to SEC schools and sat as backups instead of coming to TCU to compete and start for a job. So that tells you a little bit about what they were able to do. Chance Nolan from Oregon State kind of wasn't necessarily invested. And so your room gets thin really quickly. Chandler Morris, who hasn't really played meaningful football in a long time, has to come in and is really your only stopgap. So huge that Josh Hoover has looked as good as he's looked this season, and really is doing about as well as you could ask for given the circumstances there. So I would say the quarterback room is not necessarily the limiting factor on this offense, and in this kind of hybrid power raid veer and shoot that they're kind of running, the quarterback really doesn't matter a ton, because we're going to say, hey, this guy's open on this side of the field. We're either going to run it the other way or we're going to throw it to the open guy. Hoover can make a lot of those open throws, and so that's been really, really useful for the TCU offense. I think where you see Hoover as the limiting factor, and you see kind of the issues in the wide receiver room, for instance, is really at that finishing drives. TCU's been in the red zone, they can give you all the numbers, and just been abysmal in the red zone and really can't finish drives, and that's really put them away in some of these close losses that they've had.
You mentioned J.P. Richardson, somebody that I'm sure Oklahoma fans are familiar with. Everybody else on the in the skill position group for TCU, who are some of the names that Oklahoma fans should familiarize themselves with before Friday morning? Big bodies too.
Yeah. So some really big bodies, and the two that I think that really stand out are, one, Jared Wiley, the tight end, who always kind of felt underutilized last year at TCU, but had some big moments where he really bailed them out. This year has been a good, solid go-to option. He's third on the team in targets, averaging 12.3 yards per reception. And, again, I like this productivity metric of yards per route run, because it just kind of tells you how involved he is. That's up to 1.74 for him. So still kind of low, but substantially increased from last year. His volume is increasing. He's much more of a passing threat. The guy that's really emerged is Savion Williams, who I think a lot of TCU fans thought was kind of the rightful heir to the Quentin Johnston role of the big guy who can go get the ball and make a move. And for whatever reason, whether it's his development, whether it's his skill set, just hasn't ever seemed to click. He's playing with a little more confidence recently and been a lot better. And there's that kind of traditional big body receiver who can play with his back to the wall. He had 13 targets and 11 receptions in the Texas game. Most of that was in the second half, but really, again, just kind of getting him going is really, really good for TCU's offense. They have a ton of weapons here. The issue is they don't really have a guy. J.P. Richardson, I think, is better as a second option. We saw that. I think that's part of the reason he left Oklahoma State, was as a first option. He just, the offense didn't have the right gravity, but here mixed in, he's been able to get underneath it and really, really find the ball there. You look at a couple guys like Jalen Robinson, Dylan Wright, Major Everart, and JoJo Earl, who have all kind of been in that next tier. Nobody's really stood out there. So outside of Williams and Wiley, and then the reliability of Richardson underneath, it's really kind of been, who's going to step up and have the random game. So if TCU wins this weekend, it's going to be, Jack Beck or Chase Curtis or Major Everhart or some kind of not off-brand, but the lesser known name where we think, oh, wow, Oklahoma denied the main guys and TCU was able to get the ball to this, just one of the dudes in their wide receiver room.
Parker, what about defensively? That was obviously a really solid group for them last year. What do you make of the group this year? Who are some of the standouts, guys that Oklahoma fans should know about?
Yeah, I mean, one, just can't overstate the loss of both D. Winters and Dylan Horton. I think everybody who watches football, watches film, looks at stats, realizes how big of an impact those two guys had on this defense. Now, that being said, they've had some guys filling in. Abe Kamara last year was a little bit of a just a jackhammer, would just come in the run game and knock people out. And I think that he's been really, really good in that safety role again this season. He's the highest graded, according to PFF, the highest graded TCU defender. Josh Newton, the corner, has been really, really good. I think the concern about him was last year he was the second option. So if Tre'Vius Hodges-Tomlinson goes away, he's the number one option. Potential, is he going to get exposed? And I think he's done a really, really good job holding up to scrutiny there. Obiazor at linebacker has been great in kind of a flex position for TCU as well. And then, I think those are really three that are important. Another guy that stands out, his numbers aren't as great this year as last year, but Dom Williams, the big man in the middle, 52, the nose tackle, and that three down front is so important to kind of set the run fit and how that's going to happen. If he's not getting moved off his blocks, if he's creating disruption up front, you're not going to see that in the stat sheet necessarily, but you're going to understand, the run game for OU is not working like it is. Look for the big man, 52, soaking up a couple blocks, disrupting in the middle there, and that'll be why.
It's really kind of interesting, too, going into this week with the relationship or, the family that is the two offensive play callers in Kendall Briles and his brother-in-law and Jeff Levy. I think when Oklahoma has struggled at times offensively, it's kind of weird. It seems like the frustrations that have come out of Fort Worth just in terms of what Kendall Briles has taken over for Garrett Riley offensively. Would that kind of match up with what you've seen from Oklahoma and TCU?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it really comes down to and I'll try to be as neutral as I can here. That offense is everywhere now. It wasn't everywhere 6 years ago. It was a novelty. It was a new system. You had to be there to learn it. It is diffused. There are other people who have innovated and run it better. And I think these two guys are a little bit have the legacy of being around and in the building and have the playbook. But I think we're seeing two guys who run this type of offense who might not be the best at installing it, who might not be the best at in-game adjustments, who might not be the best at adapting it. And that's really where I think the frustration is coming, especially because if the OU fans are anything like the TCU fans, like, hey, why are we doing the same stupid thing that doesn't work? Why aren't we innovating? And I think that's really where it comes down to is these guys know the fundamentals. They were there for it. They probably helped design some of the fundamentals. But innovation in college football matters. And frankly, the heyday of that offense was a long time ago, and football's changed a whole lot. And I think we're seeing a couple of guys who are, smart, know about football, but maybe have some deficiencies in some pretty palpable ways for how to install and adapt this offense.
Parker, one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on is you are the king of college football analytics. I'm sure a lot of fans see your graphs out there. How bad did my team actually get beat is one of my favorites every single week. I think OU this last week did not favor OU in the BYU game. BYU hurt themselves a lot. I'm wondering, though, Parker, looking at the analytics in terms of OU last year versus this year, what maybe stands out? Has OU made a jump? We obviously see it. They're winning more close games this year, but are they being more efficient, I guess, would you say, on both sides of the ball?
Yeah. So one thing to factor in, and knowing when we use aggregate numbers, we're not going to be able to get some of this stuff as granular as maybe we would like. But obviously losing Dylan Gabriel and not having an obvious option last year influenced a lot of it. And I think that's really important to remember. What I'm doing right now is pulling up Texas Tech, Oklahoma preview from last season, because I think that gives us the best kind of breakthrough. So the defense particularly has improved pretty substantially from what they were last season. This year I have them at 7th in EPA per play. EPA per play, expected points added, just says, let's translate yards to points in context. They're 12th in pass and 4th against the rush there. So really, really solid. Last year, that unit was closer to the 60s. Yeah, this is being slow, and I don't know if I'll have this exact number here, but I believe Oklahoma's defense last year was in the 60s, which is obviously not where you want to be as a Power 5 program when we opponent adjust things. You want to be towards the top of the Big 12. Okay, here we go. So I've got this 72 last year is where they were headed into the Texas Tech game. So about the same time this last season, they were 56th in EPA per pass, and they were 104th in EPA per rush. In terms of success rate last year, 86th in success rate allowed in the run game for Oklahoma. This season, that is up to 37.8% success rate. That's 16th. So that's a jump of almost 70 spots just in the run game alone in success rate and kind of on down-to-down efficiency there. So huge strides for the Oklahoma defense in particular, I think, that have been really the big difference. Even last year as they struggled, their offense was still 30th in EPA per play. So it wasn't like it fell absolutely to the bottom, but that defense was so rough. And now they do have solid units on both sides of the ball, and the defense is actually a little stronger.
Could you put into perspective just how big that jump is? I know statistically it's massive, just in terms of everybody else in the country. Would that be up towards the top type of percent? I don't even know what the number would be in terms of that jump that has been made, because I think that Oklahoma fans certainly, they get caught in, I think probably media even get caught in those last 2 weeks and the 2 losses that they had in Lawrence and Stillwater, and still forget that we were talking about this team getting back from a 6 and 7 season a year ago. The jump that they've made and possibly getting to a double-digit wins, it would still be a really successful season.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's hard because the Big 12 is not what it was. Lincoln Riley spoiled Oklahoma a little bit just because the Big 12 was down. And you went to the Big 12 championship every year, no questions
Sure.
asked. That world doesn't exist. And honestly, it's good they're getting a taste of it now because in the SEC, that world is not going to exist. And so it's not that you have to lower your standards for what excellence is, it's that you have to redefine what excellence means in terms of a development cycle. Oklahoma has one of the best rosters in the nation. They've got a great coaching staff. They're going to have to maximize when their roster is talented and developed. That's going to be when they're going to have to strike, and that's going to have to coincide. So understanding these jumps, I think, is absolutely crucial. Most teams, as their returning production, as their development follows along a path, are going to make jumps of 20 to 25, 30 spots year over year, just in EPA per play. There's no priors in that, right? That's just stats on the field this year, stats on the field last year. That would be a pretty big jump. This is, I haven't pulled that, and that would be a fun graph. And I thank you for the content because that'll get clicks everywhere. That's got to be one of the bigger jumps year to year that we've seen. That 70 point or 70 spot jump in the defensive rankings for Oklahoma. That's absolutely abnormal. You don't see that very, very often. You see teams make small incremental jumps year over year. This is definitely one of the bigger ones. I mean, last year they were allowing 0.03 EPA per play, positive EPA per play. So every time their opponent moved the ball, they were increasing their value. This year, that's negative 0.04. So that's a 7/10 of a point a play. Multiply that out times 60 plays a game. That's a huge, palpable influence that the Oklahoma defense has. That's a very, very substantial jump.
Parker, last one for me. I know you're a big college football fan. Obviously, you follow it all with the analytics. Who do you like in the Big 12? There's a lot of tiebreakers. I know. I don't know if you've done all the math on all the Big 12 tiebreakers this week, but who do you like in the Big 12?
I'm boring, and I know I'm on an Oklahoma podcast. I kind of been on Texas this entire season. I've been like, look, we know the meme, Texas is back, but like, they're really talented and really good. Now, Brooks being out hurts, and Ewers being out, I think, hurt some of their power rankings. For me, I slightly had Kansas State power rated better than them going into last week. But I still think Texas is the team to beat. I still think national contention is very much in play just because of the depth of athlete they have on their roster and the fact that they can compete with some of these teams. We've seen that with Alabama as well. So getting healthy certainly helps there. In my mind, they're kind of the team to beat, although I'm sure, same as you guys, I want everybody to lose. I want the Big 12 to have the press conference of all press conferences and get a whiteboard out like the Charlie Day meme and explain to us exactly what's going on with all these scenarios and kind of the vague language here. So I'm rooting for the chaos, but I still think Texas is the team to beat here.
It should be really interesting. A lot to play for and a lot to be decided here in the final week of the regular season. Parker, make sure everybody follow you on Twitter. Where can we do that at?
Yeah, best way to do that is at StatsOWar. And then if you're on YouTube, the BetUS College Football Show on YouTube, noon Central on Tuesdays and Wednesdays is a good time. Gary Seeger and Kyle Hunter and I talking ball and making some picks has been a lot of fun. So check that out as well. BetUS College Football on YouTube.
If you're into gambling, he's a great follow for projections. I will say that.
No doubt about it. Parker, we appreciate it, man.
Also, if you're not into gambling, too, if you just want to understand the game, my hope is to have the stats for people who want to talk ball, the guys who want the numbers, is a little bit for everybody there. But yeah, we're doing all right this year.
Great Twitter follower.
Absolutely. We appreciate it. Talk to you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Parker.
Great conversation with Parker. Thanks again. It really is kind of interesting, too, when you hear the numbers that he threw out there, just in terms of the dramatic jump that OU's made defensively. I still don't think that we truly have appreciated that they're playing some form of defense, even though they're coming off of probably, their worst effort, certainly on the ground here over, the last week or so.
Well, and it just tells you, I know there's a lot of people out there that are like, is Oklahoma really better than they were a year ago outside of, obviously, the Texas game? And they are. And look, I can't sit here and tell you what all those numbers mean that Parker read off, but the product on the field is getting better. And I think you can see the improvement, whether it's in the numbers like Parker listed or just watching the games. I mean, just being there and seeing the way that OU's playing defense and even offensively at times, I think that they've improved in a lot of areas. So things are trending in the right direction, as much as people sometimes want to hit the panic button and say they aren't. And I get it. OU's lost 2 games. That's frustrating the way they lost those 2 games. Even some of the wins are frustrating. I'm sure the BYU game was somewhat frustrating, but things are going in the right direction. Now OU just needs to go out this last week and kind of finish some business.
On Monday, Brent Venables did talk about the matchup that Oklahoma will have defensively with TCU coming up on Friday.
Yeah, that's going to test us in every way. Quarterback's playing fantastic. Again, 2 400-plus yard games, too. I think he's thrown for 9 touchdowns and just been fantastic, averaging, 350-plus yards a game. He's been fantastic. So they've done a great job. Receivers, they got really good receivers. Their running game's been good, which gives them opportunity. Tight end, 6'7". Got a big 6'5" receiver as well. And really like Bailey and how he's running downhill, and he's very explosive. He's a home run hitter as well. They're blocking up front good and protecting the quarterback well. He's making really good decisions. They're putting him in a position to be successful. The tight end's great. 3's great. They're again, that's a team that they've done a good job. With the group of guys they have, and they turned over a lot of guys. They're, having tremendous, production. I think 3 had 11 catches against Texas a couple weeks ago. And so they've got really, really good players.
As Parker mentioned, Josh Hoover has taken over at the quarterback position. Chandler Morris, who Oklahoma fans I'm sure are familiar with, injured and really has never gotten the job back, as Josh Hoover's been pretty damn good. Just over 1,800 yards through the air. The one thing that we've talked about on Tuesday's show, we talked about it with Josh on Monday as well. He has the ability, or the tendency, I guess is the word I'm looking for, to give the ball away. He's thrown 8 interceptions this season, and for an Oklahoma secondary, while there is some questions about depth at cornerback, they have been able to force turnovers, as you saw a week ago, in forcing 3 in Provo.
Yeah, they've been really good at forcing turnovers this season. You look at the 2 losses, they weren't able to do it as efficiently then, but the secondary has also been really good. I think they're one of the leaders in the country in interceptions forced this season. Obviously, Billy Bowman has 5 himself. So I wonder if Oklahoma can get a couple picks, maybe even just one, kind of change the game and give your team an extra possession. Sounds like Gentry Williams might be back this week. Brent was asked about him.
Sure.
Sounds like he's
Be
practicing.
good news.
Be awesome news for Oklahoma, especially like you said, cornerback depth. We'll see what Kenai Walker situation is. He went out late in that game on Saturday against BYU. Obviously, Woody Washington going through his senior day festivities. He'll be out there. And then, probably a Josiah Wagner. Wouldn't be shocked if you see the true freshman out there. Makari Vickers, I think, is probably not going to be able to play. He didn't even travel to Provo.
I don't know about the numbers, but it seems like Josiah Wagner got probably the most run he has during the course of this freshman year. And it's kind of ironic, I guess, in a way that, there was so much talk about him coming in and impressing as a freshman a year ago, earlier this season, that he really hasn't had that opportunity. And a lot of it has been because of health. Yeah,
no, definitely. I mean, I think that he's a guy that they feel really high on. I think he was a name that came up constantly back in fall camp. Same with Makari Vickers as well. So to see both those true freshmen get some playing time, I think has been really good. And again, I think they trust those guys to go out there and play. Otherwise, they wouldn't be out there. So we'll see. I think we'll see some more guys in the secondary too with Peyton Bowen. His snap count has gone up the last couple of weeks. He's played. There's been a lot of people ask me, Eddie, why isn't Peyton Bowen playing more?
Right.
Well, actually, the last 2 weeks, he's played 50 combined snaps. The 4 games previous to that, he played 41. So his playing time has gone back up as he's kind of gotten more healthy.
Oklahoma was not good against the ground game a week ago in Provo. We've talked about it. We talked about it on the Tuesday practice report, just in terms of it doesn't seem like it's a big deal. They're going to need to come back out there and prove it again on Friday and kind of just be able to say that, Friday or that last week was, kind of a one-off. But it will be interesting with Imani Bailey and what he has done on the ground for TCU, just over 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns this season.
Yeah, he's been really good. And look, TCU's going to watch the BYU film and say, hey, we think we can attack Oklahoma in this area. And it's going to be interesting to see, can a Danny Stutzman, Kobe McKenzie, Kip Lewis, Jaron Kanik, those forward linebackers, it sounds like they were the ones that were kind of making those mistakes. We talked about it in the practice report, that it was missed assignments. And I think it was Brent being mostly frustrated with his position. He coaches the
Sure.
linebackers making those mistakes. So can they figure that out this week is kind of the big question. I think they will be able to. It sounds pretty fixable. I do think some of it was the playing conditions. I think the field wasn't great. And also guys just having mental lapses. Danny should be healthy. I think he's feeling better this week. So I do think Oklahoma should be able to be better in the run game this week.
You know, as Oklahoma goes into the final regular season game at 9-2, there has been a lot of talk this week about getting to double digits and what this would mean for a program coming off of the 6-7 season under Brent Venables in the first year. We've talked about the jump. We've talked how important it is to get to 10 wins.
Yeah, and I think before the season, a lot of places had the over/under at 9.5. So they're sitting right.
Big game for some.
Yeah, so they're sitting right at that number. Vegas always knows, right? So I think it would be really big. And you talk about the way that they got to these 10 wins, beating a Texas team like they did. Again, you had the 2 frustrating losses, but they've had some really good performances. They've been 3-2 in 1-score games, which is a big improvement from 0-5 a year ago. So if you can go out, and again, I get it. TCU is not the same TCU team that they were last year playing in a national title game, but they're still a sound football team. Sonny Dykes is going to have them ready to play. They're going to be a group that wants to win, to extend their season, go to a bowl game. So it would be another, just kind of a feather in your cap. And I think it also goes a long ways in terms of recruiting, building something. And we've all talked about it, and the narrative is getting old, but it's getting very close here. They're going to the SEC, and if you can get 10 wins, go to a nice bowl game, we'll see where they end up. Maybe the Alamo. Maybe they could sneak into a New Year's 6 if they go win on Friday. They could still sneak into the Big 12. I don't want to talk about the tiebreakers, but it would be a big, big win to get to 10, and I think it means something to this group to get to double digits.
And certainly a senior class that is going to be playing their final game in Norman, finishing with an undefeated record at home this season, getting to 10 wins, which I believe would be 41st or 42nd season in which Oklahoma's logged 10 wins. It's important. It's important to a lot of people. Isaiah Coe talked about it, as well as Brent Venables earlier this week.
Coaches, different people leaving in and out. I try not to, put a label on it. For say, everybody has to do what's best for them, and I'm no man to judge because everybody knows what's best for them at the end of the day. So I'm no man to tell somebody what they can or can't do. So I'm just happy for whoever's here. I'm happy for whoever came, whoever stayed, whoever showed us love, whoever chose to stick it out through the hard times, because it would have been easy for us to pack it up and leave last year, because nobody really believed in us. Now we're sitting here at 9-2 with a chance to go to the Big 12, chance to win 10 games. We still got a lot of ball left to play that we want to accomplish as a team. Some people might count us out because we're technically not going to the playoffs and all that stuff. But as a team, as a program, I got pride, man. I'm not trying to go out with a loss. Like, I want to win every game on the schedule. I want to win every game somebody line up against me. I'm trying to win. Like, it's that simple. So I got a lot of pride in myself. I know my teammates and my head coach. He's a very prideful man. So I'm trying to go out here and win a game, win as many games as they allow us to play.
Same thing if they were already bowl eligible. A team that plays with pride, a team that's well prepared and well coached, a team that's got good athletes, a team that's going to play with great effort. No different. I don't think, this is for bowl eligibility. Game one's bowl eligibility, right? The way it is today. You don't, now we're going to do our best. No, I don't think that. It's going to be a group that's highly motivated. They come in with great passion and energy. Again, we get everybody's best. This is Oklahoma. It's going to be an amazing environment. They'll be juiced and fired up like everybody that comes to, Owen Field. And our job is to focus on us, prepare as best that we can prepare, have a great week of practice, get better, just focus on today. This is Tuesday. I know for y'all this is Monday, this is Tuesday. And so have a great Tuesday practice. And again, do what we can while we can so that we can't, we won't wish that we would have when we could have. And so, and get our guys to really understand and buy into you're never going to regret giving everything you got. And so that means your preparation should matter every single day. So that's kind of where our focus is, but we expect, again, a great TC football team to come in here. just what you've seen from them the last few weeks, man. It's gone down to the wire, gone to the last couple of drives. It's a team that has rallied behind, their freshman quarterback. He's playing, as good as anybody in our conference and probably around the country right now. And so we're going to have a great week and a great game plan.
Man, it's big. It's a big. Set the standard right for the future. Let us know that we had a down year, but we're bouncing back. A lot of things happened that didn't go our way last year, and we can't make excuses. But we regrouped, we refocused, getting back to the Oklahoma standard, winning 10, 11 games a year. So as long as we keep doing that, as long as we keep doing our job, we can get back to that standard, set the ground for the future, for the young pups, for the guys that want to come in and do what they got to do. Just gotta set the standard and be the leader, be the thing that people want to see when they go watch college football. Be the gold standard. Be the reason. Okay, they want to be like Oklahoma because they're a program that's gonna do what they're supposed to do and they're gonna do it the right way.
Isaiah Coe, one of the seniors that will be walking on Friday morning prior to the game during the Senior Day festivities. So we talked about the 13 guys that we know of that will go through the Senior Day festivities. There will be others, though, that, obviously could come back if they wanted to, and one of those being Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah, I expect him to obviously go through the festivities.
Sure.
I know the question was brought up, what was that, a couple weeks ago? If they've had that discussion. It's my understanding that Dylan knew this was going to be his last year going into this, and I think he'll be out there for that. You also have guys like Woody Washington technically could come back. Sure. I think he'll go through senior festivities. There's a couple others that I think are on that list, and you can see it on Soonerscoop.com. Bob Persbillo wrote about it this week, all the guys that will definitely go through, and then guys that could come back if they wanted to. So it'll be something to keep an eye on. I know Dejon Terry's one of those guys as well. It's maybe on the fence of coming back or maybe going through Senior Day and this being it for him. So
it'll be interesting to see what Andrew Rain does.
Andrew Rain.
We talked about him on the Unofficial 40 this week on the podcast.
Yeah, no, he's another one. So there's several guys. Also keep an eye out. Tyler Guyton. Is he going to play?
Sure.
He's a guy that's draft eligible. He's not a senior, but I think we all assume he's going to go. He's a first-round draft pick, most likely. So is he going to play? We'll see. Bert talked about that a little bit this week. So lots of things to keep an eye on. It should be a good Friday, though. Drake Stoops, again, I think that's going to be an awesome scene. I hope Dylan gets to play in his final game at Owen Field as well. And there's just a handful of guys that, again, were big pieces in this, going from the Lincoln Riley era to the Brent Venables. And, again, looking back on it in a few years, I'm sure we'll point out to some of those guys.
Isaiah talked about it, but I think that, what this program went through just over, a year and a half ago now with, the Lincoln Riley going out west and then Brent Venables coming back and the scene, everything that was, and then the guys that stayed around. I think that, Brent talked about it as well, that this group of seniors is, they're, as he said, important to kind of the foundation of what this thing is, and getting to the double-digit wins would be mighty important for Oklahoma moving forward, and then on into the postseason with the final regular season game in Norman. One more time for you, the YouTube viewer. $1, 2 months, Soonerscoop.com. Just use promo code OU1. That is OU1, as you see right here on the screen. $1, 2 months, and as we head into what is going to be an interesting, bowl period for Oklahoma, they are headed to a bowl game. We'll see where that is. We'll find that out next Sunday after the Big 12 championship. Correct.
Correct. Yeah,
and we'll find out where everything is. Probably by the time we meet again here on Monday, outside of the instant reaction after the game on Friday and the Eskridge Lexus post-game podcast as well.
Yeah, we'll have a really good feel for the bowl game after this weekend. Yeah. And then obviously the Big 12 championship, who gets into that. Lots of nonsense going on there, I'm sure, over the weekend.
If you want to make it easy and you're out there hate watching this weekend, if you're scoreboard watching, BYU. That's BYU. I mean, that would be your for sure, pathway to get there if you're the Oklahoma football fan. And that obviously means you take care of business Friday morning against TCU.
Yeah, and that's something to watch. The other stuff to watch, we talked about it. Transfer portal's coming up. I think it opens up in 12 days. Signing day is coming up for Oklahoma. I'm sure we'll do a big show for that. So lots of stuff coming up. I know the season's coming to an end, but this is where a lot of stuff happens in terms of last year I think Jacob Lacey was committing
Right.
at this time. Deshaun McCullough was coming for a visit around this time a year ago. So key players are going to be popping up in the portal here, and that's when you need to subscribe to Soonerscoop.com because we'll have a lot of inside info on that stuff.
No doubt about it, as well as coverage on Sooner Hoops. Jenny Baranchek is off to a fantastic start with the
They're
OU
killing
women. And Porter Moser and his club going out to San Diego on Thursday to take on Iowa in the Ratty Children's Classic or Showcase, one of the two. It's a big week for them to see kind of where this thing is at with the game against Iowa. And then, if they were to win, they would take on the winner of Seton Hall and USC. So it should be kind of interesting, kind of a fun time of year as, unfortunately, things wind down on the gridiron. For George Stoya, I'm Eddie Radosevich from the Soonerscoop.com studios. We will be right back here on Friday evening talking about a Sooner season finale here in the regular season on the Instant Reaction. Talk to you next time.